What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Brody, and this is Simply Must Go. And today, we are talking about this Windone electric bike, and this thing is awesome. So if you saw my video from Overland Expo East, you know that I rode this thing around that entire weekend, and it was an absolute blast. The thing I didn't quite expect was how many other e-bikes were actually at that event. And I have to say, of all the e-bikes that were there, I think this one was the best one. There's a lot of features about this I really like. And when we had some head-to-heads with some of my other creator friends, this one came out on top. So I'll walk you kind of through a lot of the features on here, some things I really like. There's a couple of things I don't, but we'll talk through all that, and I'll give you my overall opinion. But this is so much fun. So let's get into the meat of what an e-bike is. Obviously, this is a bicycle with an electric motor. This particular model is a 1x7, so the front gear is one gear, and then it's got 7 gears in the back, and you control them with your little shifter here, just like you would any normal sort of bicycle. You just kind of shift up and down depending on what kind of terrain you're on. But then it's also got an electric assist, and it can be either used to assist you as you pedal, or you can just use it full electric and not pedal at all and just go. And I'll tell you, this thing goes. We're doing 23 miles an hour right now. Its top speed is right around 28 miles an hour. And I can confirm that. I've gotten up to that speed. I've actually gotten a little faster going downhill with that. But just cruising on a straightaway, yeah, about 28 miles per hour. And that's with me on it. So definitely a fast and fun bike. In fact, it's so fast that when at Overland Expo East, when I raced Rob Revere and Fletch from All Things Overlanding, we came out on top. We squeaked out the win, and I'm super happy about it because we were the fastest and the most comfortable and, quite frankly, the best looking bike. And the other guys, you know, good competition, but we pulled that one out. But I digress. In electric mode, you've got 5, I like to think of them as gears, but they're kind of like modes or selections. However you want to think about them, I like to think about them as sort of gears for the electric motor. But you have 1 through 5. 1 gets you started, kind of gets that lower torque, gets you moving, and then as you want to get faster, you switch gears until you're finally in 5th gear, just like you would if you were shifting a manual in your vehicle, right? You started first, and then as you want to go faster, you shift and get all the way to 5th gear. That's kind of how I look at this. That may be wrong. You may be able to do whatever you want with that, but I think it works better when I'm thinking about it in those terms. You've got dual disc brakes, so the stopping power on this thing is awesome. It will stop really, really well. So I'm really happy with the disc brakes on here. The suspension on this bike is so nice. Like, it's just like this soft little bumpy ride. Like, it absorbs everything. It's just nice to see. Like that. Just absorbed it. It was awesome. I'm really digging this bike. This e-bike comes with dual suspension, which means it's got suspension up front and it's got rear suspension back here, which makes for a really cozy ride. When I was riding around through all kinds of stuff at Expo, this was a very comfortable bike to ride, particularly for a bigger guy like me. The weight limit on this is 330 pounds, so I was fine on it. I'm not that big. But anyway, I was able to really comfortably ride this. The suspension held up really well. It absorbed all the bumps and kept it as a nice, even, smooth ride without jostling me around a lot. So the suspension on here is great. On the shocks, you can also change the preload by spinning the dials here, so you can kind of change how firm or how soft they are and kind of get it to exactly where you like it in terms of how much it's going to give and sort of the front suspension. And when you compare that with this long saddle length seat that's really padded, this is a super comfortable bike to ride. It's really more akin to riding something, I hate to say it, like a motorcycle. It's not nearly like riding a motorcycle, but it's just comfortable. It's not like the hard bicycle seats that you often get, particularly when you're bouncing off-road. This is a much more comfortable seat, especially if you're just kind of cruising and hanging out. But it's a really nice, comfortable ride between the suspension and the seat. Those are things I really like about this bike. So the bike is sporting these big 20 by 4 inch tires, fat tires, I guess is what you would call them, which is one of the things that drew me to this model. In the first place, I wanted something with big, fat off-road tires, and this definitely has them. Really nice, comfortable tire. When you get it, you do have to put it together, but 90% of it comes together already. All you've really got to do is put on the light, put on the front tire and some of these other little parts and things like that. It took my son and I maybe 30 minutes to put the whole thing together and have it up and running. And from that perspective, really happy with the quality of all the parts and the instructions. Everything was very clear. It made sense. And they give you a whole bunch of tools, all the tools that you need in order to actually put this together too. So assembly on this was super easy. And then once it's together, it's pretty easy to work. You can pedal it just like a normal bike. The battery does come on and off, and it locks too. So if you're feeling like you need to take the battery so that someone doesn't steal it, you can take it with you, or you can lock it to the bike. But all you got to do is turn on the actual battery and then turn on the bike itself, and you'll get your sort of heads-up display here. That's going to give you your miles per hour, or you can change that to kilometers per hour and stuff too if you want to go through the settings and do that. But obviously, as an American, we're going with miles. So you got your miles per hour. You've got what mode you're in terms of the electric mode, 0 through 5, 0 being off, and then 1 being like your first gear through 5th gear, and the total amount of miles that you've gone. Just like the bike selector, you get a selector on the other handlebar for the electric motor, so you can fig plus and minus arrows, make it really easy to just switch the mode that you're in there. You've also got your buttons for your light. It does have a functioning brake light. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's a bike, so there's not a lot of like things to talk about. It's super strong. The tubing on this is really well done. It's heavy because of that, because of how well built it is. It's about 89 pounds, but you don't really feel that, particularly when you're biking with the electric assist on. It just feels like a regular bike, though slightly more compact, I think. You know, like I'm used to like a big Trek or a Diamondback or something like that, and this feels a little bit more compact, but it doesn't feel bad. It's just a little bit different, but it's super comfortable when you're just sort of cruising down the road or down a path. I've taken this out on a couple overlanding trips and climbed some pretty gnarly ruts and stuff with it too and gone down, and its thing has just been so much fun to have. I'm really excited to take this out on more trips coming up. Now, there are a couple things about it I don't particularly love, and the first thing is going to be the headlight. While it's totally adequate, and I very rarely would ride this in the dark, there were a few times at Expo where it was dark out and I was riding it back to my camp, and just the pattern of the light is not great. It's kind of like a weird U-shape with a hard cutoff, and I just don't love the light. But again, it's not something I use a lot, and I don't know if there's a way to change that out for something else, but the light is really the only thing that is not, for me, like super awesome. Everything else has been absolutely great. The only other thing that I don't love is the kickstand, and the kickstand is fine, and its placement is fine, but when it's up, it can rattle a little bit, you know, so as you're going over like harder things, you'll just hear it kind of rattle a little bit. Again, not the end of the world, but I wish it would like held tighter there, or it didn't rattle, or maybe there was a different type of kickstand to use for something like this. I don't know. I'm not like a super huge biker, so maybe that's just something that all bikers, you know, have to deal with. But I just noticed that as you go, sometimes you hear that rattling and you're like, what's going on? And you're like, oh yeah, it's the kickstand. I think the only other thing that I don't love about it is I wish, because of how fast you can go and because it's such an off-road sort of bike, it almost needs like a motocross splash guard back here that comes out more, because I do notice that as you go through mud and puddles, this back tire is going to fling up and you're going to get mud on your back and stuff. So having more of like a motocross style that covers that back a little bit better is probably the only thing that I would say is like an upgrade you could do to this, or something I wish that they did, besides the light and the kickstand. Those are really the only three things that I would change at all. None of those are deal breakers by any means, but if I had the keys to the kingdom and I could make whatever I wanted, that's what I would do. I will say that just like any new bike that you get, or any new bike I've ever gotten, eventually you're going to need to take it and get it serviced. The Shimano gears on the back here, you know, the shifter is going to eventually loosen up And so it's not going to shift into all the gears properly over time, just like any bike would. It's going to need that kind of maintenance, particularly after it's new, right? Like it just doesn't come out of the box 100% always dialed in terms of those kind of things. So you might have to adjust it a little bit. But honestly, I almost never pedal this thing. I almost always use it as like a little mini e-bike, electric motorcycle kind of thing. And it's just a total blast to have that way. But this thing is so much fun. I love it. The kids love it. My wife wishes I would wear a helmet more, but it is what it is. So one of the big questions you're going to ask about something like this, particularly because you're going to take it out on adventures, or at least that's what I'm doing, is it waterproof? Are the electronics going to get messed up if it rains, or if I go through a puddle, or if I'm driving my vehicle and I do a river crossing and this is on the back hitch or something like that? So the bike itself is IPX4 and the battery is an IPX5. Basically what that means is it's good to get splashed through puddles, to get rain and all that kind of stuff. It's not good to completely drench it, get it into, like, don't go underwater with it. I wouldn't spend a lot of time riding through water with it, or trying to go through like a narrow creek or something like that necessarily. Like splashing and all that kind of stuff is going to be fine, but you don't want to submerge the electronics is I guess basically the way that works. And finally, one of the things that I think may be the best part of this is the price. Usually the price is where you're like, oh, but it's really expensive. This bike normally sells for about $1,885, somewhere just under $1,900 is what I usually see it for on the website. But I have seen it on sale a bunch. In fact, right now as I record this, it's on sale for under $900. You can pick this up through their Black Friday sale for under $900 right now, which I think is a killer deal for this, because this is worth every penny of $900. It's so much fun. That's pretty much going to do it for this quick review of the Windone E2 electric bike. This thing is so much fun. I absolutely love riding it around. If you're interested in one, there'll be a link down in the description where you can check it out. And yeah, anyway, I'm going to go have some fun. Until next time, God bless, and we will see you on the trails. That was terrible.